All right. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Oh, give me some cafecito energy, please. How's everyone doing? There we go. Very excited to be here for day 3 of the Hemispheric Security Conference. It has been a robust and detailed and prestigious 2 days, but I'm here to say I think today is going to be quite the day. You're going to hear great perspectives from 7 ambassadors today. We have a great lineup kicking off here shortly. But here to kick off the day and give you a little preview of what we're looking for, as I introduced him yesterday, my brother from another mother, the Vice Provost, Dr. Brian Fonseca.
Thanks, Brian. All right, good morning, everyone. I think brother from another mother is appropriate. By the way, that's a technical term. If you haven't heard it before, it is a technical term. It's 100% accurate. In fact, Randy was kind of the partner in crime with Frank Mora when we established this conference 11 years ago. So 11 years ago, we felt Miami should be the epicenter for conversations around hemispheric security. Right? This is a point of intersection, incredible intersection between the Americas and, of course, the United States and Canada. And we wanted to plant the flag on building a convening that brought thought leadership together to parse some of the most wicked issues facing the hemisphere. And so after 11 years, I think the program has grown incredibly large. It's becoming consequential. Not only have we had a robust session to include our Minister of Defense from Guatemala and other thought leadership from across the hemisphere, but we had a total, most of you don't know this, we had a total of 16 side events and bilateral meetings that happened between official government representatives on the sidelines of this conference. And so part of the convening is what we do in the plenaries, but on the outside, it's about impact, and it's about sort of influencing and shaping policy landscapes as we go forward. So over 80 speakers over the course of the 3 days, 16 side events, to include incredible benefits for our students. So John Mearsheimer came off the stage on day 1, went right into a room with our graduate students. Ambassador Johnson is going to do the same thing today. Ambassador Cabrera is going to do the same thing today. So it's, again, all of the side events that really ensure that we as an academic institution do 3 things. 1, we convene thought leadership. 2, we produce knowledge. And 3rd, we help develop talent that's going to go into the national security workforce. At least that's our charge. So I wanted to set the scene real quick before I hand it over to my good friend Dewey to do a proper introduction of the ambassador that's going to open up this morning. But I did want to make a few brief comments about sort of context. So today, the spirit of today is really hearing from those on the front lines of American foreign policy, those that are in the trenches every day, sort of advancing sort of American foreign policy and engaging meaningfully in the region. And so the spirit of today is really focused on that. Let's hear their perspectives on what they see as their vision for the region and how they're, in the trenches working through that. And a lot of talk has been sort of on the emphasis of the national security strategy on the Western Hemisphere. And I think for the first time in decades, the national security strategy does articulate the Western Hemisphere as the main sort of driver of American foreign policy. And I think that's in a broad context of competition with China, certainly. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that it's not because the hemisphere has been abandoned. I would often argue that we've had deep relationships with the hemisphere. In fact, much of it was beautiful because it was below the state. It was the people-to-people context. It was the way that civil society was operating within the region. It was the business connective tissue between our countries across the hemisphere. And so while the national security strategy sort of articulates the Western Hemisphere being a priority for the White House, it's always been a priority for us in the United States. And I think that's something you're going to hear over and over from our foreign policy professionals that are, again, on the front lines, in the trenches, day in and day out, sort of advancing American interests and helping build meaningful partnerships across the hemisphere. And so I wanted to set that scene for this morning, Ambassador, just to kind of tee it up for you. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce my good friend, Dewey Turner, retired Lieutenant Colonel of the Air Force, who left her last post as the Chief of Human Aspects Program, focused on understanding populations and communities to ensure that they all had equity in security issues. And so I'm going to invite, she's now a senior fellow with the Jack D. Gordon Institute for Public Policy, so we're fortunate and blessed to have her on the team. I think she's also doing the same thing with the Latin American and Caribbean Center. Either way, she is a FIUer now, and we're proud to have her. And so with that, Dewey, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Brian. Maybe one day I call you my brother from another mother. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, my name is Dewey Turner, and it's my privilege to be here with all of you. I serve as a research fellow for the Kimberly Green Latin American Caribbean Center and also the lead for the Human Aspects Forum here at the Jack Gordon Institute. Our forum focuses on the security analysis of the human domain for informed decision-making, and we're very excited to invite all of you to learn more about our work at the Jack Gordon Institute webpage. Now, it is my privilege to introduce this morning's distinguished keynote speaker, Ambassador Stephanie Syptak-Ramnath, Foreign Policy Advisor to the United States Southern Command. In this position, she provides the commander and senior staff with geopolitical, political, military, and economic counsel. She also leads the command's relationship with the Department of State and U.S. embassies abroad while strengthening relationships with foreign and interagency partners. Ambassador, welcome.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's always good to be the first speaker. I hope everybody's had their coffee and ready to start a great day. I want to thank FIU's Jack D. Gordon Institute for Public Policy for hosting this remarkable gathering. And it's a privilege to join you on the final morning of the Hemispheric Security Conference and to see so many leaders from government, the private sector, academia, and civil society committed to shaping the future of our hemisphere. Now, over the past days, I understand you've heard from leaders and experts on the most urgent and complex issues facing the Americas. You've explored the evolving threats of transnational organized crime, the crises and opportunities in Haiti, Venezuela, and Cuba, and the pressures of the rule of law in fragile environments. You've debated the risks and opportunities of great power competition, the future of warfare in space and cyberspace, and the challenges of safeguarding critical infrastructure. You've examined the shifting landscape of external powers, the economic engines of illicit networks, and the realities of irregular migration. And for our part, SOUTHCOM just wrapped up a two-day Chief of Mission conference where we welcomed our chiefs of mission from across the hemisphere and leaders from across the U.S. interagency to Doral. And you won't be surprised to hear that we had the very same discussions. And I'd like to thank Dr. Fonseca for taking time away from this to moderate one of our panels, and for Ambassador Johnson for having been there for as much as he can with as much work as he has to do. If there's one thing that stands out from these conversations, ours and yours, it's this. Security in our hemisphere is not a static concept. It is dynamic, interconnected, and increasingly shaped by forces that cross borders, sectors, and disciplines. The threats we face are evolving, but so are the opportunities for partnership and innovation. As someone who has spent more than 10 years of my career in this region, overseas at our diplomatic missions in Mexico and in Peru, where I was the ambassador, and now as the senior foreign policy advisor at SOUTHCOM, I've seen firsthand how our approach to security cooperation has changed and matured. Decades ago, our partnerships were often limited to bilateral agreements on paper only, and episodic cooperation. Today, we are building coalitions that are more resilient, more operational, and more strategic than ever before. We have trained together with our partner nations, shared intelligence, and conducted joint operations. We have learned from successes and setbacks. These relationships have been tested by challenges and crises, whether in the form of organized crime, migration, political instability, or the growing influence of external actors. But these partnerships have endured, and today, they are the backbone of our collective security as we pursue partnership with a purpose. The focus for SOUTHCOM now is to transform security partnerships into force multipliers for hemispheric defense. This transformation is not just about words, it is about disciplined, innovative, and integrated operations. So General Donovan has outlined his 4 imperatives that guide the shared mission to secure the Western Hemisphere. First, to strengthen our hemispheric command and control. Second, to impose total systemic friction on drug cartels and terrorist networks. Third, to develop and field cost-effective, modernized forces tailored for our mission. And fourth, to secure key terrain and to deny our adversaries footholds and undue influence in the region. It's clear that countries across the region, like the United States, are prioritizing hemispheric security in a way that we have not seen previously. What's changed? For one, the public's demand for security is louder and clearer than at any point in recent memory. Citizens across the Caribbean and the Americas are insisting that their leaders prioritize safety and stability, and governments are responding, not just with words, but with concrete actions. We see it in new policies, in election results, and in the willingness of countries to work together across borders. Second, the United States has taken decisive steps to secure our own borders and to support our neighbors in doing the same. This impact, which has really been led by Ambassador Johnson, has been felt far beyond our country. By working with partners in the Caribbean as well as Central and South America, we've helped reduce migration flows across the hemisphere and enabled governments to focus resources on their own security priorities. Third, we've seen how targeted and strategic operations, such as the one in Venezuela, can disrupt cartel activity and shift the balance against malign actors. Meanwhile, in Panama, our teams have worked shoulder to shoulder with Panamanian forces to strengthen regional security through joint counter-narcotic efforts and the defense of the Panama Canal. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, there is now a laser-like focus, backed by real resources, on protecting U.S. interests in the Western Hemisphere and in supporting our partners and allies. Initiatives like the Americas Counter-Cartel Coalition and the Shield of Americas are not just slogans. They represent a new era of operational partnership with a purpose. A key example is that of the ongoing U.S. and Ecuadorian military forces' joint operations against designated terrorist organizations, decisive action that demonstrates the commitment of partners in Latin America and the Caribbean to combat the scourge of narco-terrorism. We are also innovating for the future. Just last month, SOUTHCOM established the Autonomous Warfare Command, dedicated to enabling all-domain awareness by leveraging autonomous, semi-autonomous, and unmanned platforms and systems to counter threats and challenges. As General Donovan has said, from the sea floor to space and across the cyber domain, SOUTHCOM intends to leverage the clear superiority of the American defense ecosystem by deploying cutting-edge innovation and working ever closer with our enduring partners in the region to outmatch those who threaten our collective peace and security. This Autonomous Warfare Command will also improve data sharing among U.S. and partner forces, which is essential for coordinated operations and for building a common operational picture in the region. But let's be honest, the old model, where security partnership was defined principally by exercises, training, and sales, is not the way we are going to win this fight against terrorists, criminals, and malign actors who threaten to undermine the future of our region. The challenges we face are too complex, too interconnected, and too deadly to be tackled in training classrooms alone. That's why concerted and coordinated offensive action is at the heart of our strategy going forward. Burden sharing means more than just dividing up tasks. It means recognizing the unique strengths and perspectives that each country brings to the table. It means investing in each other's success, whether through joint exercises, intelligence fusion, or economic cooperation. It means moving beyond transactional relationships to build true operational alliances. We see this in the Americas Counter-Cartel Coalition, where 18 nations, including the United States, have agreed to the use of lethal military force to combat the designated terrorist organizations, transnational criminal organizations, and drug cartels that have terrorized the region for too long. We see it in Joint Interagency Task Force South, where the United States and 20 partner nations from across Latin America and Europe work hand in hand each day to share intelligence and conduct maritime operations that have resulted in record seizures of cocaine. And we see it in the growing role of the private sector, which is not just a beneficiary of security, but an active participant. U.S. companies are investing in technology, building resilient supply chains, and partnering with governments to address emerging risks, from financial crimes to cyber attacks to the safeguarding of critical infrastructure. Of course, burden sharing also means confronting hard truths. It means acknowledging that some countries are better positioned than others to take on certain challenges. It means being honest about gaps in capacity and working together to fill them. It means holding each other accountable, not just for what we promise, but for what we deliver. The stakes could not be higher. The future of our hemisphere will be shaped by whether we can maintain secure borders and effective institutions, or whether we allow ourselves to be divided and weakened by criminal and external threats who act with impunity. As General Donovan has said, peace through strength is the strategic vision guiding U.S. national security and defense strategy. And that vision is only possible if we all do our part. So as we move through this final day of the conference, I encourage you to think about what burden sharing means in your own work. Whether you're a policymaker, a business leader, a scholar, or a student, you have a role to play. Ask yourself, how can we build on the partnerships of the past to meet the challenges of today? How can we move from cooperation to true operational integration? How can we ensure that our hemisphere remains a place of opportunity, not just for ourselves, but for our future generations? We have only just begun to tap the potential of our partnerships. There is much more to do together to target narco-terrorist groups, counter malign influence, and build a hemisphere of sovereign, secure, and prosperous nations. I am optimistic about what we can achieve. With unity, resolve, and a willingness to share the load, I know we can build a safer, more prosperous hemisphere for all. Thank you, and I look forward to the discussions ahead.